Habits. Some of us have good ones, most of us have bad ones. Some believe bad habits can't be fixed. You may think that you can't stop smoking without locking yourself in your basement. Or you think you can't go to the gym without getting pointed by a gun. But what if I tell you everybody can build good habits very easily by following simple rules? James Clear uncovered the secrets of building good habits and breaking bad ones in his #1 New York Times bestseller, Atomic Habits. If you struggle to be consistent with your habits, you have come to the right place. If you are interested in the book, please check the Amazon links in the descriptions below. Now, let's get started. What is Atomic Habit? I'm pretty sure you know the word habit, but what about the word atomic? Atomic refers to very small, very tiny. So instead of having a big one-time action, like running a marathon, James suggested that small habits can be more life-changing, like eating a salad every day. But why are small habits better than massive actions? The answer is simple. Not only are small habits easier to start, but also easier to sustain in the long term. It is not a good idea to lose 5 pounds by starving yourself in 3 days, but it's easy to lose 20 pounds in 1 year. All sorts of big goals require long-term commitment, maybe a few months or even a few years. So you don't have to rush, but you need patience and consistency. The power of 1% change every day. Nobody cares about having 1% improvement every day. Right, 1% is pretty much invisible. But if you can improve yourself 1% every day for 1 year, you'll become 37 times better after 1 year, thanks to the compound effect. On the other hand, if you get 1% worse every day for 1 year, you'll decline to 0.03, or equivalently 3%, which is nearly down to zero. So in order to achieve something big, you just need to improve yourself a little bit every day. It won't be obvious or even invisible at the beginning, but you can expect a tremendous result in the long term. But how do you keep pushing yourself in the long term? You know it, say it together, it is motivation. No, I mean habits. Setting a goal is not enough. There are millions of people are writing down the same New Year resolution every year. I want to lose 20 pounds this year. They all have the same goals, but according to a research study, only about 10% of people succeed in losing weight. So why do the other 90% of people fail to do so? In fact, merely setting a goal isn't enough. You also need to design a system to act on. A goal is the result you want, and the system is the process that leads to the result. If your goal is to learn a new language, your system is how you learn it, like what study materials you'll be using and how much time you're spending per week. Or if your goal is to lose weight, your system is how you exercise your body and what you eat daily. So the goal is only good to provide you with a direction, but the system is what makes the progress. There are 3 more reasons why focusing on your goal isn't that useful. First, winners and losers have the same goal. Let's say in a tennis tournament, I would say many of the players want to win the championship. But at the end of the day, there is only one champion, so barely having a goal is not likely to get you to win a championship. Second, achieving a goal is only a short-term change. Let's say you want to pass a foreign language test. You studied really hard and you managed to pass it. But after the test, you lost all of your motivation because you only wanted to pass the test, but not to keep learning the language in the long term. That's why barely achieving a goal isn't that sustainable. And lastly, goals restrict your happiness. Goals create an either-or, all or nothing conflict. If you have a mindset that I will be happy if I reach the goal, this also means that you'll be disappointed when you can't reach your goal. But in fact, you shouldn't be happy only when you reach your goal. Instead, celebrate the small wins. Be happy every time you eat healthy, and every time after you finish the workout. Enjoy the process, not the result. how your habits shape your identity, and vice versa. Mary wanted to keep her body fit, so she summoned her motivation to run for 2 miles 3 times a week. She did it for 3 weeks. At the moment when she stood on her scale, nothing had changed. She was so disappointed. She had been working so hard, but failed. So what's her problem? Before revealing the answer, we need to understand the 3 layers of behavior change. The first layer is the outcomes layer, which refers to the results you want, also known as your goal. The second layer is the processes layer. Changing your routine of going to the gym falls in this layer. The third layer, also the deepest layer, is the identity layer. This includes your beliefs, your ego, your assumptions, and your values. So back to the question, why Mary failed to keep up with her plan? She first set a goal of losing weight, which falls into the outcomes layer, and she also set up an exercise routine, which is changing the process layer. So what's missing? The answer is that she hasn't changed the identity layer. In order to lose weight and exercise regularly, she has to identify herself as a healthy person. The goal is not to run 2 miles 3 times a week. The goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to practice the violin every day. The goal is to become a musician or a violinist. The right type of identity will automatically shape all sorts of processes needed to produce certain outcomes you want. A reader won't struggle to read a book. A runner won't struggle to run 2 miles a day. So barely performing the habit is not enough. You need to become the type of person you want to be. So now the question becomes how you can change your identity. Here comes into 2 steps. First, you choose the type of person you want to become. Second, you reinforce the new identity through repeating certain types of actions. Let me explain. Your identities work like a voting machine. Every time you eat healthily, you give 1 vote to your healthy guy identity, which enhances this identity a little bit. When the identity has enough votes, then you become the type of person of the identity. Changing your identity is not like the law of attraction. You wouldn't become a wealthy person by yelling to the universe, "I'm rich," 100 times every day. You can only have a wealthy person identity by repeating the action, like saving up every month, working hard to earn money, and investing wisely in the stock market. So you shape your identity by actions, and then your identity will transform your behaviors back, which forms a positive cycle. Or when it comes to bad habits and a bad identity, it forms a vicious cycle instead. The habit loop. The science of how habits work. There are 4 stages in every single habit. They are cue, craving, response, and reward in order. The author called it the habit loop. Let's take a look at how eating cookies became a habit for James. A cue is a trigger that initiates a behavior. James sees a piece of cookie on the counter. A craving is the desire that's triggered by the cue. James has the desire to eat it. A response is the action you perform. James eats the cookie. A reward is what you get after the action. The cookie tastes good to James, which makes him want to eat the cookie when he sees it next time. Without all 4 steps, a habit will not be able to form, and the behavior will not be repeated. Let's go through another example. I guess many of you guys have a habit of drinking a cup of coffee in the morning. Cue. You wake up and you feel tired. Craving. You want to feel alert. Response. You drink a cup of coffee. Reward. You're satisfied as you feel alert. After the reward, the behavior of drinking coffee is associated with waking up, and the habit is formed. The 4 steps can be further divided into 2 phases. The problem phase consists of the cue and craving. In this phase, you notice a problem and want to solve it. The solution phase consists of response and reward. In this phase, you take action to solve the problem and enjoy the result. The 4 laws of behavior change. In the following parts of this video, I will provide the 4 laws to create good habits. Each law corresponds to one element of the habit loop. The first law, make it obvious, is about making the cue more noticeable. The second law, make it attractive, is about making the craving stronger. The third law, make it easy, is about making the response easier to start. Finally, the fourth law, make it satisfying, is about strengthening the reward after the action. We can also reverse these laws to break bad habits. Inversion of the first law, make it invisible. Inversion of the second law, make it unattractive. Inversion of the third law, make it difficult. Inversion of the fourth law, make it dissatisfying. And now we're ready to dive into it. Make it obvious. Make it obvious basically means making the cue more noticeable, so you are more likely to perform the habit. A cue, as we have just discussed, is the trigger point of a habit. It can be anything you feel, like stress or boredom, or something you see, like a restaurant. It can also be a specific time of day, like waking up at 7, or a location that you walk into, like a bar. So basically, anything you can sense has a chance to become a cue. The habit scoreboard. But before we build new habits, let's handle our current ones. Sometimes our habits are firmly rooted in our lives that we don't even notice. Just like the famous quote from Carl Jung, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So now, let's write down all the habits you currently have. It can be something like go to bed at 12, go partying on every Friday night, or bite my nail when I'm stressed. These habits can be in any area of your life. Now, pause the video, write down 10 habits you currently have on a piece of paper, and come back when you're ready. All right, I guess you're done. The next step is labeling the habits. If it's a good habit, write a plus sign. If it's a bad one, put a minus sign. Or if it is neither good nor bad, put down an equal sign. My list looks something like this. Sometimes it is not very easy to decide if a habit is good or bad. In fact, there is no such thing as a bad habit. All habits, including smoking, exist because they all solve a problem. Smoking reduces stress instantly, but it's not healthy in the long term. Going to the gym is tiring and causes muscle pain for a few days, but it's healthy in the long term. So in this exercise, we try to label the habit as good if it can benefit you in the long run, or it can help you to become the type of person you want to be. So you finished your habit scoreboard. Let's try to pick 1 to 3 habits you want to work on. In order to build a new habit, you have to be specific. So for each habit you want to build, fill in the sentence below. I will do this habit at this time in this location. If you want to learn a new language, it can be something like, I will study Spanish for 20 minutes at 9 p.m. in my bedroom. If your plans are not specific enough, like, I'm going to go to the gym more, or I'm going to eat more healthy food, that will be too vague, making it hard to execute. So make sure the plan is clear in terms of action, time, and location. Another effective technique is called habit stacking. In habit stacking, you build a new habit on top of an existing habit. The formula of habit stacking is, after I do the current habit, I will do the new habit. Current habit is a habit that you already have, and a new habit is the habit you want to build. Let's say you want to read 20 minutes every day. You can write something like, after I brush my teeth at night, I will read for 20 minutes in my bedroom. Or if you are learning Spanish, you can have something like, after I leave my house in the morning, I listen to an episode of a Spanish podcast on YouTube. By using habit stacking, you can use an existing habit as a cue for the habit you want to build. So you don't need to plan for the exact timing to do the task. You just do it after doing the habit you already have. Your behavior is controlled by your environment. The most powerful sensory ability of humans is, of course, our vision. Most of the time, you do something because you see something as a cue. You see the chocolate on the counter, so you buy it. You see somebody drinking wine, so you also want to have some. In fact, human behavior can literally be summarized in an equation. In 1936, German psychologist Kurt Lewin wrote a simple but powerful statement. Behavior is a function of a person in an environment, or B equals F of P and E. According to this equation, your behavior is almost always predictable under certain environments. So how can we make use of this equation to our advantage? We have two ways to apply it. First, we can change the environment by making the cue more visible. If you want to remind yourself to go to the gym tomorrow, put your gym outfit and your protein shaker next to your wallet, or next to anything you'll bring in the morning. In this way, you will remember to go to the gym 100%. Or if you want to drink more water, you can simply put a bottle of water on your desk in your office, so it is more visible to you. In contrast, we want to make the cue invisible for breaking bad habits. If you don't want to be distracted by your phone during your work, don't put your phone on your desk. Switch it off and put it inside your bag. By making your cue visible, you're more likely to start a habit. And by making your cue invisible, you're less likely to think about it. Also, it is really hard to stop the desire once we pick up the cue, so manage your environment wisely. That's all for the first law. Make it obvious. We've walked through the habit scoreboard. Design a new habit by I will do this action at this time in this location. We also know how to use habit stacking. After I do the current habit, I will do the new habit. And finally, we've discussed how to design your environment by making the cues of good habits more visible and making the cues of bad habits invisible. Now it's time to jump to the next law. Second law, make it attractive. So after you see the cue, your desire is triggered and you start some kind of action. But have you ever thought of where the desire actually comes from? The answer is dopamine, the chemical of feeling good, which is released by your brain. Let's try to understand more about dopamine before the application. In 1954, neuroscientists James Olds and Peter Milner ran an experiment to reveal the neurological processes behind craving and desire. By implanting an electrode into the brains of rats, they successfully blocked the release of dopamine. But what happened next might surprise you. After the dopamine was blocked, the rats suddenly lost all will to live. They're not eating, they're not having sex, they don't desire anything. They die of thirst just after a few days. For years, scientists thought dopamine was just the chemical of pleasure. But now we know it also plays an important role in motivation, learning, memory, and much more. When it comes to habit, dopamine is released not only when you're experiencing the reward, but also when you're anticipating the reward. People who get addicted to cocaine will have the highest level of dopamine not when they're taking it, but when they see the powder. Similarly, school kids are so excited the night before the school trip that the excitement of anticipation is way more than the excitement during the trip. So in order to build a habit, you need to make the habit attractive so you start craving for it. We'll provide 3 methods to make your habit more attractive, including temptation bundling, joining a culture, and having a proactive mindset. Method 1. Temptation bundling. Temptation bundling works by linking an action you want to do with an action you need to do. In 2014, a TV show of the American Broadcasting Company, also known as ABC, promoted the idea of TGIT, which stands for Thank God It's Thursday. They encouraged viewers to make popcorn and drink red wine when they're watching the show. This strategy led to a big success, as the viewers started to associate enjoying the night with watching the show. The underlying logic was that eating popcorn and drinking wine are what viewers want to do already, and watching the show is what ABC wants the viewers to do. To apply temptation bundling, you just need a simple formula, which is just another version of habit stacking that's discussed in the last chapter. After I do the habit I need, I will do the habit I want, which is simply habit stacking, but in reverse order. For example, after I run for 20 minutes, I will read my favorite comic book. After I write 1,000 words for my script, I will have dinner. In habit stacking, you use the existing habit as a cue, which means you do the existing habit first and then do the new habit you need. In temptation bundling, you do the new habit you need first, and then you do the existing habit. So in this case, you use the existing habit as a reward. In my opinion, both are equally effective. For both of them, you're just pairing an existing habit with a new habit. Method 2. Joining a culture. Humans are social creatures that need approval from other people, and we tend to imitate behaviors from 3 types of people, including the close, like friends and family, the many, we copy behaviors from the society standards, and the powerful, including rich people, athletes, or presidents, as they're prestigious and resourceful. As you're likely to copy behavior from these 3 types of people unconsciously, you need to be aware of who you spend time with and who you admire. Particularly, you should choose a group of people where your desired behavior is normal among them. If you want to quit smoking, you can find a group of people who don't smoke at all. If you want to run weekly, then join a running club in your local community. This method can be really powerful. When a group of people have the same goals and the same identity as you, you'll find it way easier to build certain habits. Method 3. Having a proactive mindset. Sometimes it is not the task being unattractive, it is the fault of the internal speech that you're telling yourself. Indeed, changing habits is never easy. But instead of telling yourself it is hard, you should tell yourself it is challenging. Don't tell yourself, I need to go to the gym. Tell yourself, it's time to challenge my muscles. Every time you're about to say you have to or you need to, you should say you get to or you want to instead. When you use words like you need to, you're telling yourself that you are forced to do it. But when you say you get to, you proactively accept the challenge, which means you choose not to be a victim anymore. That's the most powerful mental shift you can ever have when you're facing any difficulty, including building habits. This makes difficulties become challenges, just like a quest in a game, and the habit will naturally become more attractive. So, in this chapter, Make It Attractive, we first explained how dopamine works with the rats experiment. And then we have 3 ways to make your habits more attractive, including temptation bundling, joining the group of people where your desired behaviors are normal, and finally, having a proactive mindset when facing difficulties. Third law, make it easy. When building a habit, we tend to have an ideal plan, like I'm going to the gym 6 days a week, or I'm going to lose 10 pounds this month. But we're always disappointed when it doesn't go as we planned. So how should we react instead? Let's walk through a story first. A professor at the University of Florida divided his film photography students into 2 groups. For the quantity group, students would be graded only by the number of photos they take. Taking 100 photos will be an A, 90 will be a B, and so on. The other group is the quality group. They were told to submit only 1 photo for grading, but to get an A, it had to be a nearly perfect photo. You might think that the quality group will give the best photo among the 2 groups. But at the end of the term, the professor was shocked, as all the best photos were taken by the quantity group, not the quality group. But why? During the semester, the students of the quantity group do a huge amount of experimentation on composition, lighting, and are busy testing out other different methods. They learn very quickly from the mistakes they made along the way. However, the students from the quality group just sat around and hoped for the perfect photo to magically appear to them. In the end, most of them are only able to produce a single mediocre photo. What can we learn from this experiment? We always love to find the best way to do a thing, like finding the best training program, waiting for the best business idea. But the best approach is just to take action, fooling around, making silly mistakes, and improve along the way. The first few tries will never be perfect, but you have no way to skip them. You have to learn to embrace being not perfect. If you fail to go to the gym 3 times a week, no worries. Only going once a week will keep you away from obesity. Don't be discouraged just because you can't follow your plan 100%. Keep moving the needle just a little bit every time, and you're good to go. Law of least effort. The law of least effort means we tend to perform the action that is easiest for us because our brain is an energy-saving machine that chooses the action that consumes the least amount of energy possible to solve the problem. Habits like scrolling on a phone, lying on the couch to watch a television show are the best examples, as they require very little energy to execute, but are still able to gain some rewards. On the other hand, good habits are usually harder. So how do you explain why some people can do hard things, like running every week or learning a foreign language? Good question. People actually optimize the environment by reducing the friction of starting the habit. If you struggle to go to the gym, you can try to prepare your gym outfit and make your protein the night before. So in the next morning, the whole process is much smoother. Or if you're learning a new language, you can always leave your books on your desk, not on your bookshelf. So it is easier to start. Stop procrastinating by the 2-minute rule. Now, even when you know you should start small for a new habit, we often dream too big. So here's another tip from the author. For any habit, you can scale the habit down to a 2-minute version. Let's see how it works. If you want to read 30 minutes before bed every night, it can become read 1 page. Similarly, study exam for 2 hours can become open my notes, and run for 3 miles can become tie my running shoes. The idea is to make your habit as easy as possible to start. Also, the 2-minute version should be a crystal clear action. After you've completed the 2-minute version, the remaining part should follow pretty smoothly. This strategy works for another reason. Do you still remember the importance of having an identity in habit building? The 2-minute version of the habit can make you show up more frequently and end up voting more for your new identity. The key to voting for a new identity is not how big a single vote is, but the number of votes it gets. Eventually, you will have a rock-solid identity that shapes your behavior back, and you will need less energy to maintain the habit. Inversion of the third law. Make it difficult. When we want to break a bad habit, we can flip make it easy to make it difficult. If you want to stop drinking alcohol at home, just don't walk into the alcohol section in the supermarket, so you are less likely to buy it and become impossible to drink it at home. Or you want to spend less time on social media, just to uninstall them from your phone, or at least log out of your accounts. You can always download it again if you really want to use it later. If you really try to use one of these tricks, you'll be surprised by how easy it is to break your bad habit without forcing yourself. Make it easy is one of the most powerful rules in this book. In this chapter, we've covered the importance of embracing imperfection, the law of least effort, the 2-minute rule, and making it difficult to break bad habits. By mastering the art of showing up for the habit every day, you will be way more consistent with your new habit. Now, we're ready to jump into the last rule of this book. 4th law, make it satisfying. In the late 1990s, Karachi, a city in Pakistan, was one of the most populated cities in the world, having over 9 million people. However, there was no waste removal system and no clean water supply. In the rainy season, mosquitoes thrived in the sewage, and children were playing among the garbage. The poor hygiene conditions led to extensive spread of bacteria and viruses, including the epidemics of diarrhea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. The serious public health crisis brought Stephen Luby, a public health worker from the United States, to Karachi. His mission was to improve the hygiene situation of Karachi. His approach was simple: to promote hand-washing with soap to Karachi's public. But Luby and his team soon realized a problem. Many people already knew hand-washing was important, but few people made it a habit. So it wasn't a knowledge problem. It was a consistency problem. If you were Luby, what would you do? Luby and his team came out with an idea of partnering with Safeguard soap, which was considered a premium soap by the public. Unlike other brands, Safeguard soap had a good scent that was not a common thing in the late 90s. His team ran an experiment by giving this soap to the public in Karachi's streets. The good scent made hand-washing more pleasurable, and many people liked it in the experiment. Next, Luby's team started to distribute the Safeguard soap to the citizens of Karachi on a large scale. Within months, the researchers saw a rapid shift in the health condition of children. The rate of diarrhea fell by 53%, and impetigo, a bacterial skin infection, fell by 34%. So why did Luby have such a big win? While the good scent of Safeguard soap did nothing in terms of killing bacteria or viruses, it made a strong positive sensation of "it feels clean." When an experience is satisfying, we have more reasons to repeat it. And this is exactly the last law of atomic habit: make it satisfying. Human brains haven't evolved for a delayed reward environment. Instead, our brains love instant reward. Imagine you were born 6,000 years ago. The only things you need to think about are, how do I get to the next meal? Or where to sleep tonight? You won't bother with something like, should I save money for my retirement? Or thinking about, is eating too much bacon good for my health? Our brains focus only on instant reward, because if we even struggle to get our next lunch, why should we bother about next month or next year? But nowadays, our living standard has greatly improved. We are less likely to be faced with short-term life danger, like getting chased by a lion. Though our brains didn't evolve quickly enough, that's why we're still taking action for short-term benefit by default. Now the question becomes, how can we trick our brain into doing a good habit for long-term benefits? Turning instant gratification to your advantage. Let's say you work out at the gym for 2 months, seeing no results, so you quit. Other people seem to have unlimited motivation because they're already looking good in the mirror, and it is easy for them to keep working out. So how do you fix it? The answer is adding some external reward after you complete a habit. Maybe after hitting the gym 3 times a week, you can buy a little gift for yourself that won't go against your habit, so not like a big meal. The little reward can make the habit a bit easier to repeat, as it is slightly more satisfying. But after you persist in the habit for a long enough period, the reward of the habit will kick in. Maybe you see your arm growing bigger in the mirror. That's the moment you won't need the external reward anymore. The habit becomes satisfying on its own, and the habit loop is self-sustaining. How to stick with good habits. Besides giving yourself an external reward, keeping track of your habits can also be really effective. Many video games have applied this trick to make their games more entertaining. It keeps track of the number of monsters you've slayed, character attributes like strength, defense, and agility points, or the kill, death, and assist statistics in League of Legends. Many players are so obsessed with these kinds of numbers, as those numbers show how you're progressing in the game. And you can apply this in your daily lives. Let's walk through an example to see the power of tracking. In 1993, Deersmid, a rookie salesperson, got hired at a bank in Canada. Nobody expected too much of him. But he had made a breakthrough thanks to a simple habit. His main task was to make sales calls. In the morning, Deersmid would have 2 jars on his desk. One was filled with 120 paper clips. Another one was empty. And after he made a sales call, he would move 1 paperclip to the empty jar. He would make sales calls until the empty jar became full. By this simple habit, he brought $5 million in sales to the company within 18 months. The visual measures, like moving paper clips, provide clear evidence of the progress, and the progress itself is a form of instant reward. Humans don't naturally love to track things, but we naturally love to see progress. And the easiest way to measure your progress is to track your habit in a calendar. Every time you complete your habit, you just cross out the day. Tracking is effective not only by making the habit more satisfying, but it also acts as a visual cue of the habit. Every time you see the calendar, you will know it is the day to hit the gym. But remember, even if you break your habit streak, it's not the end of the world. As we discussed in the last chapter, perfectionism is your biggest enemy. So what you need to do is just catch up on the progress again. Conclusion. Congratulations on finishing the book summary of Atomic Habits written by James Clear. Let's have a quick recap on some of the important concepts in this book. First, in order to build a habit in the long term, you need to build the right type of identity that helps you to shape your behaviors. This can be done by proving your new identity through small wins. Second, the habit loop consists of cue, craving, response, and reward. Cue and craving are the problem phase. This is the phase where you identify a problem. Response and reward, on the other hand, are the solution phase. This is the phase where you solve the problem. And then, the 4 laws of habit building are nothing but enhancing the 4 elements of the habit loop. The first law, make it obvious, just means to enhance the cue. So we make the cues more noticeable. This can be done by a habit scoreboard, implementation of intention, which is, I will do this action at this time in this location. Habit stacking is also one of my personal favorites, so you do an existing habit first and then do the new habit. Finally, the inverse law of make it obvious becomes make it invisible. That is very useful when you want to break a bad habit by hiding cues in your environment. In the second law, make it attractive, we first explained how dopamine works, and then we introduced 3 methods, including temptation bundling, joining a community where your desired behavior is normal, and shifting to a proactive mindset. In the third law, make it easy, we first pointed out the importance of embracing imperfection, the law of least effort, and finally the 2-minute rule. The 3 rules will make your habit much easier to start by reducing any mental struggle or physical friction. And finally, in the 4th law, make it satisfying, we explained the importance of using external reward to make the habits more satisfying before the habit becomes rewarding by itself. Make you stick to the habit easier by habit tracking on a calendar. Thanks for watching this video. If you like the content, please hit a like and a subscribe. You can also find the book by Amazon links in the description below. And I'll see you next time.